Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of District Divided. I am the main host, Amit Singh, and the star of the show. But I do have co-hosts here. I got Matt Regan, I've got Elsie Lautaro Cabrera, I've got Spencer Brudig, and I've got Kadeen Wiggins, a.k.a. K-Dot. It is good to see you all once again, and we have a lot to talk about. First off, Gonzaga might be the most overrated team of all time. They got absolutely smacked by the Baylor Bears, 86-70. We get into that game. LC nodding because he has a point that he made last week that we are definitely getting to. We're also going to talk about Sam Darnold. Kadeen has been high on the man. He got traded to the Carolina Panthers. There goes the Washington football team quarterback circus. We're going to get into that and whether we should have made that trade instead of the Carolina Panthers. We've got a special Coming to America segment brought to you by our very own LC. He's from Argentina, and there are a lot of very confusing things about this country. He is going to talk about one of those things. The NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, is beginning back up with the Challenge Cup. I'm going to tell you why you should be very interested in it, and we're going to also talk about the Maryland's men's basketball team and women's basketball team. They're both about top 5 and 6 respectively in the ESPN way too early rankings for 2021-2022. And finally, see, there's a lot, guys. Finally, we're also going to talk about the best sporting event to go to in person here in DC with the Washington Nationals now allowing fans. Looks like DC United is going to be doing the same thing, as well as the Washington Spirit. Guys, how are you all doing today? Matt, let's begin with you. How are you doing?
I was doing fine until you said you're the main host.
Oof.
Honestly, I was excited, and I think you put us all down. And honestly, you know, we've thought about unionizing, and I think now would be a good time to go on strike. So we'll do next week. Next week? What do you guys think?
Matt's day rate just tripled. I just have to say.
Yeah,
I'm the guy that always brings us in. I'm the guy that explains what we're going to do. Oh, my God. Anyway, boys, let's just get straight into it. The national championship game happened for men's basketball. It happened for women's basketball, too. Shout out Stanford Cardinal on an amazing win for them as well. But it was all about Gonzaga entering the national championship game. They were the team of destiny. They were undefeated. They were going to join. They were going to be 32-0 and absolutely maybe the best college basketball team of all time. But everyone seemed to have anointed them. Then the Baylor Bears decided to show up too, and they smacked the shit out of them. 86-70, and it should have been worse than that. Spencer, what were you going to say?
How many of us called that? It was you, me, and Elsie, right? Everyone else? Or Kadeen, did you jump in on Baylor?
I literally don't remember. I'm trying to figure out which one I picked.
I'm pretty sure he said Gonzaga. I'm pretty sure.
He said Gonzaga.
Y'all hyped up one of them, and I was like, I'm just going to run on that bandwagon. So, I don't know.
I just want to say one really quick thing. I was all about three-pointers. You can go down the entire stat line. Baylor essentially won every category except for personal fouls, but they shot a ridiculous clip from three. And
they did.
You know, that was that's all she wrote.
I'm going to give credit. I mean, I think it was almost going into the tournament. You were talking about 3-point percentage, and I was saying that it's just not – it's a great stat to have. And then just watching it, I was like, oh, my God, this is the best 3-point shooting team I've ever seen in my life. So, yeah, I mean, hand up. I didn't have them. I mean, I wouldn't say I, like, wrote Baylor off. I would say I favored Gonzaga. They were just looking so good going in the Final Four. I think it was a disappointing final game, but, like – you know, the whole season, it was 1-2 Gonzaga, Baylor. Michigan kind of crept in there a little bit. But really, it was those two teams all year. We got in the finals, and really, you know, it was time to put up or shut up for both those teams. Only one team really showed up. So props to Baylor. Great team, great win, great season.
Go ahead, Elsie.
I have to give a shout out to my professor, Dr. J. Martin, the most winning coach in Division III soccer of all time, who was my professor of the mental aspect of sports, for letting me know that Baylor was going to win this game 4 years ago, some time ago.
So he was just delivering lessons.
He knew.
For the future.
He knew that I was going to make that prediction years later and say, look, it's too much pressure for a college team to come in 32-0, to come in with everyone thinking that, you know, you're going to win it, to come with, you know, this guy who has that facial hair specifically for the playoffs. That's too much. That's too much pressure. To think if I lose, then the beer was for nothing. There you go.
Here's what I'm going to say. Because, okay, so yes, Dr. J. Martin, good for you. But here's why I picked him this year, okay? This year. So like Spencer has cited many times, the best 3-point percentage at 41.2%. across all of college basketball. They also force 17 turnovers per game. That means chaos on defense. They have a good defense, and they offensive rebound in double digits, 11 or 12 per game. And all three of those facets of their game showed themselves in the first 4 minutes. That's why this game ended immediately. In those 4 minutes, just the first 4 minutes, Baylor had 4 offensive rebounds, 3 of them by 6'5" senior Mark Vitale. He just wanted it more. Then Davion Mitchell, the floor general, 3 of 4 from the field. Jared Butler, 2 of 2 from the field, a couple threes there. Maceo Teague, the third guard that people don't talk about as much as the other two, blocked to Jalen Suggs, shot 11 points for Baylor in those first 4 minutes. Then Gonzaga, they are the team that prides themselves on offense. They just go, score as much as you want, we're going to outscore you.
Right.
They had so many problems. Tip passes by Baylor, 2 turnovers. Gonzaga is very good about keeping control of the ball. 2 Jalen Suggs fouls. They were being sped up. One of them was an offensive charge drawn by Davion Mitchell. Drew Timme, we talked about him a lot. He's been fabulous for Gonzaga all tournament. He had 1 offensive touch during those 4 minutes. It was chaos. It was all Baylor. It felt like a boxing match. 11-1 after the first 4 minutes, and they knocked him out early. It never got closer than 9 points. It was an unbelievable performance from the Baylor Bears.
But it isn't like, at the same time, it's not like they rode that 10-point gap for the whole game. Like, they continued to want it more throughout the whole game. Like, it's not like they sort of, slow down or like, okay, now we have the game under control. They continue that. I remember this play. I don't even remember who did it, but this guy from Baylor saves the ball from going out of bounds and ends up on the stands, basically sprints back to try to block a 3-point shot on the other side of the court. And like, they were winning by 12, I think, or something. Like, it wasn't like, oh, if they make this 3, like, we're going to overtime. They just continued to want it more the whole game.
It was a totally exactly. I'll say that was Maceo Teague actually who saved it and then ran across the court to contest that 3-point shot. It was just a beautiful team display. They all bought in. You can't name a single Baylor player that had a bad game. Like, that's the thing. They were all dialed in. They were all playing their best basketball. And I think even though Gonzaga, played that overtime game with UCLA, they could have beat UCLA by 20. I don't think they stood a chance against this Baylor team. Baylor just were a bad matchup for Gonzaga, and props to them. They were absolutely fantastic. Did anybody else think that if Gonzaga and Baylor played again, that Gonzaga would beat them? Like, if they played in a week, do you think Gonzaga would definitely beat them?
I mean, it's hard to say yes to that. I mean, they got dominated.
Yeah, from what I saw.
Yeah, no, that was a great recap. The only thing I would say, Drew Timme, when you're down 15 points, you can't be doing the down 15. That works round of 16.
Sad.
That works round of 16, up by 20 points. You can't be doing that down 15.
Real quick, and I totally agree. I think he did it to try and hype the boys up, but it just fell flat. Real quick,
call that the good old LeRon Landry.
Oh, don't we know it?
He would give up the 30-yard pass, hit a receiver, and then just start roid raging all over again. It's like, dude, you gave up a first.
And then the next play was a touchdown as well on LeBron. Bad draft pick, but let me not get heated there. Real quick, does Gonzaga need to leave the WCC in order to be better battle tested to win a national championship?
They're not going to go 32-0 again. Like, that will be battle tested.
Well, they didn't this time.
I mean, to say not battle tested, they had a pretty tough non-conference schedule. They schedule their non-conference teams, but then again, you're going. I didn't know the stat. The entire year 2021 going into the tournament, they did not play a single ranked team. I guess that makes sense. So maybe they can do the intermix, conference and non-conference. That might be a way to do it. But yeah, they should get out of the WCC. I mean, they're in the last 10 years, they've been a top 5 basketball program. It's time, even if it's just your basketball program, it's the second biggest NCAA sport. I'm not saying join a Pac-12, but like you can join at least like a Mountain West or something like that, where it's like a higher level.
Once you're in the tournament, aren't you being tested pretty much every week? I mean, you can say that maybe the first game is like, you're playing the last seed, I guess, but like anyone who's in the tournament should be good enough to compete.
The only reason I think they should leave, and here's the thing, Gonzaga's ranked number 1 again. No one's going to believe that anymore. Like, just because this was supposed to be the best team ever, now everyone's going to be like, are you sure? Like, I just don't see it. Go ahead.
But that's one of the things I was talking about, like with Lindsay, with like the NBA allows for much fewer of these anomalies because you have a 7-game series, right? So like you have to be consistently better than the other team. Whereas on the NCAA or most college sports, like there's no extended playoffs. If you fuck up one night, like that is it. If you fuck up on the round of 16, like it doesn't matter, right? And so like there's so much more randomness and so much more unpredictability because it's a one-night thing.
Right. But and just to conclude it, the reason I think they should leave the WCC was highlighted by the dagger play that ended the game. It was already over, but it definitely was the exclamation point, was when Corey Kispert went up for a pretty basic layup that in the WCC is always a layup. Here against Baylor, swatted by Mark Vidal, immediately transitioned to Jared Butler. He kicks it out to Flagler. Flagler hits the three. They're up 17 with 13 minutes to go. It's over. It's over. Yeah. Congratulations to the Baylor Bears and Gonzaga. Let's see if they go to the Pac-12 or something like that, because I do think having those games lead up to the tournament, you see better defenses, you see better offenses, more athleticism. They just look like they hadn't seen it all year. Now, moving on to football. Kadeen, we're going to start with you here. Sam Darnold was traded from the New York Jets to the Carolina Panthers for a 6th-round pick this year, a 2nd-round pick next year, as well as a 4th-round pick next year. You wanted a quarterback circus. We have Ryan Fitzpatrick. We have Taylor Heineke. We have Kyle Allen. Alex Smith is now gone. Now, before we get into Detroit versus Washington, what are your thoughts on the trade? And are you upset we did not trade for Sam Darnold?
I don't like you putting Washington and Detroit in the same sentence, just putting that out there. But
yeah, neither do I.
Outside of that, I feel the stank of that Detroit style pizza that they sell at Little Caesars, because that's how shitty that city is. So Sam Darnold is a guy that I really, really like. I mean, I've said time and time again that, yeah, I did want that quarterback circus or festival here in Ashburn, but I look at the draft picks that had to be given away to get him, and I'm saying if that was the price for Darnold right now with where the Washington squad is, I wouldn't pay it. Like, the Sam Darnold thing was more before the Ryan Fitzpatrick signing. And I thought that at this point, far enough into it, maybe Sam Darnold will be able to get for a bag of peanuts at this point, just also knowing that the New York Jets are just a shitty organization and they'll do stupid things. That maybe you could, if one of those picks, if it was a 6th or maybe even a 4th, just a 4th, I'd say, all right, maybe pull the trigger, just have him there. But right now, I mean, if I'm looking going into the draft, I mean, you want to have as much as possible to potentially make a move. I mean, right now, I've been watching nothing but highlights of Kyle Pitts, and now I want us to trade the next 10 years worth of draft picks to go get him. So I don't know. I don't know. Right now, I kind of like what Washington's doing. I like what we've been doing in the offseason as far as these pickups go. And I think our quarterback room right now, I'm set with it. I'd actually be disappointed right now if we do trade up in the draft to go get a quarterback with the situation we have. I honestly think our quarterback room is where it needs to be, and you can ride on. I think Sam Darnold ended up in a really good spot in Carolina, like as far as a team that's going to be able to have that quarterback competition. I think Teddy Bridgewater kind of sucks for you, dude. It's a guy that I always root for, and he had quietly a pretty good year in Carolina last year. So I see them just making that move, and we'll see the Jets draft somebody and fuck that pickup too.
Matt Rule, the head coach over there, highly regarded from the Baylor program, and Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, who has a pretty good reputation. Now, I'm going to throw this to Matt or Spencer here. It's a toss-up. We'll see who gets there first. Again, 6th-round pick this year, 2nd-round pick next year, 4th-round pick next year. Was that too costly for the Carolina Panthers or for any team in general? Or did you think that was a pretty fair price tag on Sam Darnold?
I'll say that was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. A 2, a 4, and a 6. Yeah, you know what Kadeen said. I think it was maybe it was, if it was just a 2nd, if it was a 3rd, I think those would have been fine. But I'll say this: like, it's pretty rare that you see a quarterback who's been in the league now 3 years. He's never wowed, and I know you have the Adam Gase stank, you have the Jets stank all over him. But like, it's rare that you see him turn around. I know everyone points to Ryan Tannehill as like a like for like. But he is more the exception than the rule. So, you know, if Washington traded 2, 4, and a 6 to get Sam Darnold, even without their congested quarterback room, you know, I would have said, Yeah, I would have been ripping Kadeen on this. That's not even a move the Lions would make. Trading all your drafts for Kyle Pitts, that's a Detroit Lions move. Okay, so you don't
Shout
want
out Eric Ebron.
That would mean he's a bust.
Dude, no.
I'm putting that juju on him.
Fine. All right. The other thing I want to agree with Kadeen is that you like where your quarterback room is at to get to where you need to be, and I totally agree with that. The quarterback room is exactly what you want it to be to go 7-10.
Yeah, hard. I will say this about the Sam Darnold thing and the Adam Gase is that I've said this on other podcasts, anywhere that anybody's willing to hear me talk.
Oh, you have no podcasts?
Yeah, they've
How
got
many views?
A couple thousand in India last week.
There we go.
Now, beyond that, I hate Adam Gase. I'm not saying that in hyperbole. I fucking hate Adam Gase. He's the worst head coach in the history of the NFL. I think that you ride the coattails of a dying Peyton Manning with an offense that wasn't even that great to then go get the job in Miami, almost ruin Ryan Tannehill, who goes off and does great things in Tennessee. And I'm looking at Sam Darnold never had a chance with that dude in the room. Like, that's why I wanted to take the shot at Sam Darnold. But I'm looking at the Washington quarterback room and just saying he's not going to get enough reps. Like, I understand 3 years, I get that. But I'm saying that there's an Adam Gase rule. And the Adam Gase rule is that what he touches is shit. So you need to get away from him.
You know it's bad when even Buffalo Bills fans who are rivals with the New York Jets just hate him because as a lover of football, you just go, fuck that guy. He literally looks at his players and goes, how can I get the worst out of you? And he somehow does it intentionally. It makes no sense. Just to cite those Ryan Tannehill stats, in the 2 years with Adam Gase as his head coach in Miami, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions one season, 17 touchdowns, 9 the other, which is fine. But then you look at Tennessee years, and he's got 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He exploded the moment he left Adam Gase's clutches, and I think Sam Darnold is now in a position to do the same thing. The Jets had a horrible offensive line. All the comments after games was Sam did something wrong. It was just a toxic environment. He's now gone. Zach Wilson, who's probably going to be the number 2 pick, will have a chance to shine with the new head coach. But Sam Darnold's time in New York was definitely over, and I agree with Matt and Kadeen. The quarterback room in Washington for this season is full. There is no reason to bring in Sam Darnold when you have a guy in Ryan Fitzpatrick who, again, sort of the Benjamin Button of quarterbacks, is playing his best ball right now. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if my favorite, Taylor Heineke, can make some noise and even grab the starting job, which would mean a really, really good job in camp. But I think this is good that we did not get Sam Darnold, and I think it makes a lot of sense that the Carolina Panthers picked him.
To touch on that Buffalo part, I always thought what was funny was that going into that draft, Darnold was the guy who had to defend Josh Allen. Because then Josh Allen was getting criticized leading up to the draft, and his stock started to fall. And Darnold was the guy saying, hey, you're not going to criticize him like that. He's going to come and he's going to flourish. And I think everybody, including Josh Allen, thinks Sam Darnold just got the rawest deal possible being in New York. And at least he can walk away and not be like a David Carr or Patrick Ramsey got his head bashed in, where now he's shell-shocked. I don't think he's shell-shocked. I just think the scheming was bad, and you don't have a guy that could talk to you as a quarterback. If he gets out of that to anywhere else, he has a shot. It just had to get away from Adam Gase.
So real quick, go ahead, Matt.
Wait, I got a $1 bet. Throw the promo music. $1 bet. Who starts more games next year, Sam Darnold or Teddy Bridgewater?
Darnold.
All right, I got Bridgewater.
He may not even be in Carolina. He could potentially explore trade options right now. So it's pretty clear Darnold's going to start.
I would go Darnold just in the sense of like the organization. I think it's going to force their hand on what they had to give up in the trade.
Okay. And then he's probably going to get traded and be a starter somewhere.
I think one other thing, though, that we are missing, I mean, I don't know if people are missing this, but Darnold is going to be only 24 years old. And it's pretty interesting that a guy that I kind of assumed like, oh, this is a guy that's like 28, 29 years old. It's like hard to remember that he's still so young, but he really could be, if he transitions and flourishes, it's even going to be better than Tannehill, right? Because Tannehill was leaving later than Darnold. And I mean, this guy could be a cornerstone quarterback in the league for 15 more years. And we haven't even been able to see him play with good receivers or a good offensive line. So I'd say it was a good pick. Good trade.
For a topic not today, but something I do want to discuss at some point, is my philosophy on the bridge quarterback. And I think that, especially in college right now, with as many of these schools that are running pro-style systems, I think busts that happen in the NFL have a lot less to do with the player themselves as much as the situation they're going to. And I think that that's something that really needs to get taken into consideration. If you can't run until you learn and scheme in an offense, your career is going to flame out. Because that's what happens with a lot of these guys, is they can at least move around to avoid that rush in order for them to pick up the offense and to learn after a period of time. But if you're a pocket passer and you're not having a good offensive line or some weapons down there, you're not going to do anything in this league. And that's what I just want other people to understand. These so-called busts are just because the organizations are not in proper positions to make them succeed.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point there, Kadeen. So I guess we wrapped it up. We all agree that Sam Darnold should not have been traded for, but he can be really good. And to Spencer's point, I want to say he's actually younger than Joe Burrow, who was last year's round 1, pick 1. So there's plenty of time for Sam Darnold to turn this around. And now we are going to turn around and send it over to LC over here for a Coming to America segment. The floor is yours, LC.
Oh, okay. All right. So my fellow Americans, I have a lot of things that I find very strange about this country. By the way, I love this country. I just got my COVID shot. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. But I do have 2 questions about this topic for all of you that I would like for you to answer. The first one is I want to have your take on why do you think that this happens? So why do you think that we do this? And I'll tell you what this is. And the second is, should we continue to do this? And what this is that starting at the elementary school intramural lacrosse scrimmage level, we started with the national anthem. Now, why do you need to play the national anthem? Since you're a child at every level, every sport, every occasion, why do you do it? And do you think it should continue? I find it completely bizarre.
Okay, so is this specific to lacrosse? Because I feel like I played a lot of youth soccer. Not once did I hear the national anthem being played.
Yeah,
I'm exaggerating, but the elementary level lacrosse scrimmage hopefully does not have the national anthem. If you do, please report them. They shouldn't. But at the college level, you have them. At the high school level, I've seen one time, we played some sort of intra-school game that had players from all different schools. They play the national anthem. I'm like, why? Like, why do we need to listen to this right now? Like, doesn't that, to me, it demeans the song. It makes the song too common. If you play it on everything, it just sort of loses like its importance. And let me give you a comparison. In Argentina, we only play the anthem for like basically the World Cup and inauguration. Those are the 2 most important things that can happen to the country. And so,
which is more important?
The World Cup. And we when it happens, I have cried with the Argentinian anthem multiple times. And it's because it's such a special moment, because you don't hear that song often, right? Whereas I feel like here, I've heard, "Oh, say, can you see?" like, I don't know, about 200 times at least. And it's just like, is it just a background noise in it by now?
This will never change, and I'll tell you why. First off, Bovada's got great betting odds on the over-under for the amount of time the national anthem is going to take, depending on who's singing. So there's money to be made each and every time that anthem is sang by somebody. Now, I just wanted to double check the title of the national anthem in Argentina is Su nombre Diego, es el Dios. See, is that correct? Is that correct? Yeah.
Well, there's an official
and that's why
anthem.
You cry with it.
There's a recognized anthem by the government, and then there's a people's anthem. The people's one has to do with Diego, of course.
Okay, got it. Well, I tell you what. So I think it's a good point that it does get watered down, because I don't really feel anything. Right. I was born here, I was raised here. I don't really feel anything when the national anthem's played. I'm just like, this is a 2-minute delay before the actual sporting event begins. For example, in England with the Premier League, they're not playing, a national anthem. No. They are just getting ready for the game.
Because it's 2 teams that are on the same country. Like, that's what I don't understand.
What I like about, real quick, this is a quick digression. What I really like about the Premier League, European soccer in general, when they say the game starts at 10 a.m., it starts at fucking 10 a.m. I love that. Here it's like, it starts at 1 p.m. And then all of a sudden it's like,
I don't think you would like sports in South America, because they start whenever the fuck they want.
One thing I do want to add about the national anthem is this is not something that has always been a thing, right? Like, I think if I'm I'm not sure if I'm totally right about this, but I think you looking at the NBA, it was after a political candidate in Ross Perot bought a team. It might have been the Mavericks, and he brought it in as like a thing in the 80s. So I don't think the NBA used it. I don't think the NFL used it. I'm not totally sure of my history, but this is a relatively new thing. So when people are like, oh, it's a classic thing, I don't think it is. I do think that in baseball, it did start earlier. It might have started in like the early 20th century, but it wasn't like a thing that we do in major league sports all across the board. And I don't think that it was really even a thing that we did for kids all that often. I'm not totally sure, but just as a minor point.
All right, Kadeen, I feel like you're coming with something spicy. Go for it.
I mean, it's the sorry. Ooh, okay.
Spice it up.
Well, all right. When I was doing District Divided last year during the Black Lives Matter protest, I don't know if we talked about it, but there is this whole after the Colin Kaepernick thing. There was a new lens on this, the National Anthem bit.
Exactly.
And when you start peeling back the layers, you realize like military flyovers and the National Anthem with the football games didn't start until the 90s, and it was a defense contract to try to help recruit. It was trying to help recruit for the military. Now, after 9/11, it was another thing where there was this unity, right? So, like, I remember as a dumb kid who wanted to be in the Air Force after 9/11 because you just feel that patriotic duty, I would watch my NASCAR races. I shit you not. I was in ROTC, and I would stand up alone in my living room, my hand over my chest, and I would stand up for the national anthem before every NASCAR race.
See, I've done that for the Argentinian one, but it's once a year.
But see, that's the thing, is that when you start, there's this indoctrination that you get as a kid of this stupid, unrealized, undeserved American exceptionalism that we all constantly try to grasp to in some degree. And any way in which we can do that, we try. And I think what you're talking about on that lower level are after you start seeing some of the major sports do it for some of the bigger events. In football, you'd have it in front of like the Super Bowl. It wasn't in front of your regular season game, it was the Super Bowl. But then when you have like high schools in Texas, in the Bible Belt, that wanted to start latching on to more, is when you start playing it some more. And then it's that and that some God, what's that stupid ass country song? God bless the USA. That thing, if I hear that on, I'm expecting burnt crosses and pickup trucks, so I leave.
But yeah, it is one of those things. Also, like, did we all forget that we're Americans? Like,
also, I mean, it's also kind of weird. As kids, every single day, I sing the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, that one too.
Yeah, like, that. What about that?
Well, and the reason,
what am I getting? What am I doing this for? I'm about to go for a reading hour. I got to sing the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's exactly why I bring that up.
School.
There you go.
Protest that?
I protested at elementary school. Now, it wasn't for some big grand thing. I was just being a rebellious little kid. But they could. I remember reading something about what is the basketball player in the 90s? Mahmoud Abdul
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
Scottie Pippen. Patrick Ewing.
The other guy.
Scottie Pippen.
Barkley.
Gilbert.
Barkley.
Hell no, it definitely wasn't Barkley's
Hakeem.
Dennis Rodman.
Y'all done? Any more?
Steve Kerr.
Patrick Ewing. Okay,
Grant Hill.
Dennis Rodman.
Arguably the best player of the 90s after Jordan.
Mike Bibby.
Dennis Rodman took a big political stand in the night. But I remember reading about Mahmoud Abdul Rahif, and he didn't stand for the national anthem. And I remember he had his reasons for not doing it. So I remember looking at my fourth grade teacher, who I used to make cry all the time, just me being an asshole. And I'm like, I'm not standing for this. And she's like, well, why wouldn't you? I was like, you know, I don't believe in I've learned that crack was sent in by the government, and I just don't trust the country. And she looked at me and never asked me to stand up again. It was awesome. I sat during the Pledge of Allegiance, but it's just dumb.
But honestly, that's a little bit of what I asked, because in Argentina I had a similar thing where they were every morning they raised the flag to this song that it was not the anthem, but it's some other patriotic song that to this day, if I listen to it, it makes me feel like it's 7:30 a.m. and I don't want to be here, right? So like I have associated the song with the negative moment, which is like, oh, my school day is about to start. And so like, it's just such a strange, like why, especially in games in which both teams are Americans. Again, in the Olympics, in the World Cup, I get it. Like somebody is representing the team, the country, like at least, but like both teams are Americans. Why do you need to play it?
It is.
I'm Americans. It's a trash ass song too.
It's horrible.
Trash song.
We need to
Whoa.
update. We need to
Every
we
time
need to
somebody
update.
else thinks it
Whoa!
anyway.
I was gonna
listen,
say this. I think it's kind of a fire song.
Bullshit.
I
I think Oh Canada. I think
it
Oh
needs to be
Canada
updated.
is the most fire anthem.
Can we do a Bad Bunny version?
I would also support a Bad Bunny version. I would support updates.
That's the only reason
That's
I
what
would
I'm saying.
support
The
Every
Puerto
game is
Rican.
on a-
It's a
The
patch.
Puerto Rican.
Just patch the song. That's all
We need
I'm
a
saying.
Spanglish
The
one.
only reason I wanted Kanye for president is I thought we get a remix. Like I'm in Baltimore right now, right down the road where Francis Scott Key's racist ass wrote this damn song, and it's like that's the other thing is that there's no unity even behind the song sometimes. Because like I look back and I hear that song and all I think about is how my people went fucking changed. So fuck that song. Like why do I care about this
I'm with
goddamn
you.
song? I feel emotional when I hear Amazing Grace because
There you go.
there's some actual hurt and shit
It's
in
also
that.
sang better typically as well.
Yeah.
Now, real,
Amazing Grace, also fire.
no, that's a fire song. I don't think that needs
Fire
updating.
song.
But the Pledge of Allegiance, no, not the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry, the National Anthem.
Well, both.
Maybe both. Yeah, actually, both definitely do. Hey, real quick, Kadeen, you talked about ROTC standing up and putting your hand over your chest. Yeah, the one time I did that, and the only time I've ever done that, 2006, the U.S. was about to play the Czech Republic in Germany. We got shithoused in that World Cup. We lost 3-0.
Thomas Rosicky.
Thomas Rosicky.
Rosicky.
Shout out the
Banger.
Arsenal
Banger.
legend. What a banger. One of the
That was
best.
sick.
World Cup
And then we
goals
got him that
ever.
next year.
Yeah, we got him that next year. Yeah.
Great transfer.
We being
Great
Arsenal.
play. What a
This
play.
is an Arsenal podcast, by the way. Anyway, moving on. We are now going to, well, actually, boys, if you're good with it, give this one to me. I'm going to talk to you about why you should
Of
pay
course,
attention
you're the
to
main host. You're the
Washington.
main host. We're just fans.
You're catching on, bud. All right, I'm going to talk to you guys about why the Washington Spirit should take some of your attention for at least the next month. The NWSL Challenge Cup is beginning. What is it? It is a tournament where each team plays 4 games, and if you finish top of the group, there are 2 groups, East and West, you play in the championship game. The Washington Spirit are loaded this year. They've got Kelly O'Hara and Emily Sonnet, who are 2 U.S. women's national team stars. Andy Sullivan is another one. She starts at center mid for us. We have Ashley Sanchez, who was named Young Player of the Year in the league. And Dennis Rodman, we just mentioned him. His daughter, Trinity Rodman, 18 or 19 years old, picked 2 overall, is a monster at forward. If you're interested in a championship, the Washington Spirit might be your best bet here, folks. You can see these games on CBS All Access. I guess now it's called Paramount Plus. The first game is this Saturday against the North Carolina Courage at 3:30 p.m. There are 5 teams in the group. One of the teams is called Gotham FC. How do you not want to see that team play? The Washington Spirit should be favorites to win that group and be able to play in the championship game. And this is just before the actual regular season. So it's almost a bite size. See if you like the NWSL. It's the time to get into it. It's growing. We've got the women's equal pay stuff going on as well. This is the time to get in, and the Washington Spirit are legit. Yes, Spencer.
Yeah, I've got a question about this. When did this come back? So I remember in our youth, we had WUSA, right? Which was the initial riding that 99 World Cup, Brandy Chastain, penalty that everyone's seen. They were riding that, and they created, the first women's major soccer sports program in the country. I remember my sisters just going bananas. I saw a ton of San Jose Cyber Rays, I think that was the team name. And then they kind of collapsed like in 2003, 2004. When did this league kind of come up, and is it at all well funded, or is it still pretty?
So great question, Spencer. I don't know the exact year it came up, but it's been around for some time now, at least like I want to say 7-8 years. And new ownership groups have been coming in. And there's a lot of money getting into the NWSL right now, including the Washington Spirit. Go ahead, Elsie.
And since the last Women's World Cup, because they won it, and I remember Twitter conversations being like, if you like this team and you like watching them win, go watch the NSW. They were like this, the NSWL. They were like, if you really want to support women's soccer, go watch the local United States professional league. And the cool thing was that I watched the World Cup, the Women's World Cup, and I was impressed by Rose Lavelle, who at the time was at the Washington Spirit. And I had no idea that she was literally on my city's team, right? And I think that the last World Cup with all the women's pay issues and everything that came around it, as they won and the U.S. men's didn't even qualify, it really brought attention to how you can maintain that support that you show every 4 years for the World Cup, but throughout the year. And then obviously COVID happened and whatnot, like things got a little bit messed up. But I think it was the last World Cup that really brought a lot of local attention to the league. Whereas the women's national team, everyone has known them and their success for a while, but like the actual league that takes those players into that team was a little bit less recognized.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question from it. Are there plans to be in-person attendance?
Yes.
That's a good
Yes,
question.
there are.
That seems like an in-game experience we got to go to as a pod. Just saying.
100%. 100%. You
down.
should absolutely go to a Washington Spirit game. There's one on April 27th where they're allowing fans. I don't remember who it's against, but it's one of the last games of the group stage where, again, the first place team out of the 5 qualifies for the final that takes place on May 8th. And the game's at Audi Field. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Shout out to Rose Lavelle. That's my girl. Wisconsin Badger. Love her.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And speaking of that, Matt, let's talk about it. Our last topic for the day, and real quick, just shout out the Maryland women's team. They've returned all their players from the Sweet 16 run, so they're going to have a go at it. Number 5 in the way too early ESPN rankings. And Maryland at number 6, they picked up a guy named Fats Russell and another guy named Kudus Wahab, who used to play for Georgetown. But so no one really gives a shit about them. Good for you, Maryland. Good for you. I cover you. I hate you right now. Anyway, moving on. What is the best in-person sporting experience here in DC amongst the professional teams? Matt, I will begin with you since you brought it up.
Okay. Before we kind of get into this debate, I think we need to cover what sports are eligible. So I wanted to ask the crowd, all right, so obviously you would say the big ones, Washington football team at FedEx.
Yep.
Yes.
Caps at Capital One, Wizards at Capital One, Nats at Stadium, United Audi, Georgetown at Capital One?
At Capital One.
Okay, Washington Mystics, they play in
I
smaller
don't
arena
remember the
inside
stadium,
okay.
but yeah, WNBA,
So
yes.
I've never been. I can't really say what that's
Same.
like. And I've never seen a Washington Spirit game either. So
Okay. Those happen at numerous locations, but more recently they're starting to transition more to Audi Field.
okay. So we'll count that as at Audi Field. Are we combining any of these? Are we?
I suppose you could combine the Washington Spirit and DC United because it's both soccer, men's versus women's. The point is you get a really good seat over there. Yeah.
Okay.
2 more that I just want to throw out really quick before we get into this. The Dogos, which is the G League team.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Super fun, super cheap. And Old Glory, a professional rugby team.
Yes.
Is that
Sensational. It is so fun. So
RFK?
fun.
I still need to go.
Okay. Okay. I support that. And also, the Wanderers, they play out of some field in Maryland. Ahmed, do you want to talk about them?
Federal City Wanderers, back-to-back defending champions in your men's amateur league, known as the DC Premier League. Off to a bit of a rough start here, boys. 1-2 on the season, but 1-game win streak. So feeling good. Matt, why don't you go ahead and answer the question? I don't want to talk about it anymore.
So I think out of the main ones, I think there's a clear. And I've never seen the team play there, but I have been to the stadium. FedEx Field is the worst field in terms of hardest to get to.
Amen. Yes.
Not a great field. I've never seen the Washington football team play there. Obviously, I don't think that would help the experience. They're such a trash team, but like going on. All right. So, so that being said, when I think of my top 3, I would say United at Audi has been fun for me. Caps at Cap One is a good atmosphere. I would say tickets are expensive, and that to me is prohibitive favorite. But I think when I come down to it, what is my favorite experience? I gotta say Nats at Nats Park. It's just you can get in for cheap, relatively easy to get to. I think we talk about transportation to and from, which is a big part of the experience. Cap One, you can't beat that. Like that.
It's a magnificent stadium too. It's absolutely beautiful.
But Nats Park's the favorite. It's the most universal. Like I've taken friends to DC United. Some of my friends are like, "Yo, United, it's so much fun. I want to go again." Other friends are like, "Dude, I hate soccer. This was so boring. I wish I had more beer." Whereas like I do think everyone enjoys the ball game. It's all there. I think
Because
Nats.
we're drinking.
You drink at all these games, sorry. You drink at all these games, though. So when I get down to it, what is the most universal? Which one do I enjoy the most? I don't think it has the highest ceiling, but it certainly has the highest floor. Is that it's rare that I've had a bad experience at a Nats game.
I totally agree with the highest floor because there's so many regular season games that you can more easily detach yourself from the results. So you can just enjoy the drinking, you can enjoy the hot dogs, you can enjoy just being with your friends or whomever you're with. I totally agree with the highest floor. And I know we just talked about the NWSL and it seems like I'm even championing them at this point. but the Washington Spirit playing at Audi Field actually is my favorite sporting event.
Okay.
The reason being that because not a lot of people have jumped on it yet, the seats you get are unbelievable, and the price you get is actually pretty good. So you get to go up close, and granted, the one time I was there, I was pretty hammered, but I had a great time heckling the opposing goalie.
Your mother is going to be watching this.
Fantastic time. Yeah, no, she knows about it now. She's very disappointed. Shout out, Mom. I love you. But it was a fantastic time. Went with a large group of people, got to enjoy the game. You get to see it way up close. DC United, I think, is actually third, and I agree with Matt. Second, Washington Nationals. I love Caps games, but the price is way too expensive to go to those things.
Like regular season's like $50 for nosebleeds, so that's just, it's a bit rich. It's a bit rich. The product is great. I would say the product in terms
100%.
of product, obviously the Caps are great every year. Love watching hockey in person, but it's like
It's the only time I can find the puck.
it's rare. It's rare that I can't get. I mean, I've sat in lower bullet Caps games. I think one time that was like my friend had corporate tickets or whatever. But like, other than that, you're not going to get a good seat.
I have to say, for me, it's Nationals. It is so fun. You can get nosebleed seats and go sit at Devil's Backbone way up in way out there on right field. That's my number one. Number two, I love the Wizards games. They're cheap. You get to see great other teams. Like when the Warriors come to play, when my Kings come to play, I can see them for $10.
Dude, I mean, I saw LeBron.
Go get some Chinese
when we
food,
snuck
and
down,
then amazing. So, and then my third, I like Caps.
heartbreak.
Caps are great.
Shout out
I've only
Ronaldo.
gone when I've gotten free tickets, which is thank you so much. But I would say United. United is so fun, and Spirit along with that is great.
Yeah, birth of the dollar bets, by the way, was the Wizards game that Spencer and I went to when Jordan McRae, dollar bet legend, hit a 3 at the buzzer so that the Wizards would lose by 40 instead.
And I won
43.
$2, and I was jumped up screaming like we just won everything. It was amazing. It was deeply embarrassed. It was a great moment.
So Spencer just got a call from the White House, so he has to bounce now. It was great to see you, brother. Kadeen, I want your answer to this question. Best sporting experience for DC sports?
Well, see, that's the thing. It's almost like a power ranking, right? It can kind of change here and there. Like if you were to ask me right before COVID, best sporting event that I've been in DC in years was actually the XFL at Audi Field. Was incredible. Really? I mean, good ticket prices. All the fans there were really into it. Being able to sit that close to the players, I'm screaming at Cardell Jones all day. Like games. It was pretty dope. I think that the only thing that sucks is as a Washington fan having to hear Matt like talk about it, and he's not wrong. FedEx Field is the worst goddamn stadium experience ever.
Awful.
It just sucks because I remember as a kid what RFK used to be, and that would be the best if we could get back to something like that. So I mean, right now with what it is, like if I had to power rank it now today, Nats are probably still number one, but that's just because of the overall game day experience. I mean, tickets are not terribly expensive. I always get kind of caught in trying to do a more expensive ticket. Like I always end up with a Diamond Club seat or some shit, and then I regret it afterwards.
Humble brag there.
But here's the thing: I regret it afterwards because like you're not really there to watch it. I mean, maybe food is the food is banging, but beyond that, you'd rather just be in the stadium. That's a lot of times I'm at Camden Yards most times for baseball games. I don't care about the product.
Great park.
Yes, great park. But I put them up there. I'd say number 2 right now would honestly be the Wizards just because of Russ. I mean, the tickets are cheap.
That is fun.
We don't know how the tickets are going to be right now, but Wizards game have usually been fairly cheap, and
definitely.
One time, like we caught a gecko, and I still have the gecko from Geico on the Wizards game. So I have only positive experience.
As a former Geico employee, fuck that gecko. But I would say the best sport I think to see live is hockey. Hockey live is a life changer as far as sporting events go. It just sucks that the price point is so prohibitive. I mean, that's the thing is that when you got a sport that speaks to upper Northwest white people, you can't not have the tickets be an exorbitant price. I just wish they could bring them down a bit.
So in Detroit, granted, all of our teams suck right now, but like pretty much game tickets are relatively cheap now. So I don't think it's necessarily it is the sport a little bit for sure, but like also the Caps have just been so good for 10 years, right? Yeah. So like naturally their tickets are just in higher demand. The Wizards haven't been good really since they've been to DC. You could talk about maybe the Paul Pierce or whatever, but like They just haven't been the good. But that being said, I would say, and price point goes into it. Like, dude, if I can go to a game, like if you can get a ticket, Cap One's such a great arena. You can honestly look for tickets maybe 20 minutes before the game starts. Oh, they just hopped in $7. Let's go meet at the stadium. Metro there, be there. Probably show up 5 minutes late. So show off doesn't happen. Have a couple of beers in the concourse. Boom, you're in there.
Missed
Like
the anthem.
That's true.
But the thing,
That is true. I did not factor that in. But
I would say that's the beauty of waiting till the very last minute to do this on StubHub, for example, is you actually save money and you don't listen to the national anthem.
That's true.
But you can also, but I mean, unless the Lakers are coming into town, like you can see some stars. Yeah, like it's a fun experience. Like if you go into it knowing, like, hey, Wizards aren't that good, but I'm going to see some amazing basketball. Because I mean, Brad Beal has been amazing to watch on the court, regardless of what the win-loss column is. Like it's a good time. It's a good vibe.
I remember, like 10, 12 years ago. I guess it was 08, 12 years ago when I was in high school. Here. I remember going to the nosebleeds to a Wizards game and seeing Dwight Howard with the Magic. And again, we were at the very top of the stadium, and I remember thinking, like, this man's shoulders are the broadest thing I've ever seen. From the nosebleeds. So I agree with you that, like, just seeing these
First
people,
Hall of Famer shoulders.
that should be a criteria right there. But like seeing these players live is a completely different experience to what you get on TV. Honestly, even on TV, when they put that camera that they have now that sort of like rolls through the bottom and you see them in a different perspective, that's like already like different. You realize how freaking big these people are.
Also, I would also say watching pro athletes warm-ups almost more amazing than the games. Like you see them just dropping threes, easy dunks, dude. If you watch a soccer game in person and you see like their 5v2, or you just see their passing, everything's flat on the ground, like stuff like that just seems so stupid and mundane, and you're just like, oh wow, they can hit every open three that they want to, and I go to the local park and shoot one for 20 from three or whatever. Like, not really. Yeah, I remember. I was actually fucking raining it.
And there it is. And there. He couldn't resist that one.
It was actually fucking real hot. Fuck you, Sonny. Fuck you, Nate. All right, let's go. I would say I like that. So for that person exactly, Canadians, like, oh wow, we just spent so much time watching college basketball, and you see, the best players we just watched are now on the Wizards. You can go see them you can probably get in the door for less than $10, have a good time, watch pros play. Wizards got to be up there.
It's just a good overall thing. Like with FedEx, it's just what I start realizing is that, especially like even preseason. In preseason for Washington games, you start hearing those rumbles. Hey, such and such got preseason tickets. They want to know if you want to go to the game, and it's like you start thinking about the logistics. It's going to take me all day. I can't do it spur of the moment because I got to figure that out. If I'm going to catch the Metro, I got to be ready to walk 1.5 miles uphill. Like it's just. No, I don't want to do it. Like, especially with the way the technology is, I'd much rather watch the game at home. FedEx feels the only one that I'm going to outright say, if the tickets are free, I'm probably not going to go unless the game.
I have said no to free tickets.
So many times, right?
Before, yeah.
I mean, the tickets got down to like $3 a game at one point, right?
And they weren't selling them. And they still weren't selling them because it was too expensive. You'd have to actually pay people to go to the game because it is just such a miserable experience. Like Kadeen said, it's more stressful than fun to go to those games. And when the product on the field has historically been horrendous with Dan Snyder as owner, why would you go? And just to be clear, it's not even a shot directly at Dan Snyder. It's just where the field's been since he's been the owner. So it's not like there was a previous owner that had it at FedEx. This was Dan's idea. Yeah. So anyway.
The stadium itself was built by Jack Kent Cooke.
Was it?
Yeah. So fun fact, where FedEx Field is located is in a place called Rowjon, Maryland, according to U.S. Postal Code. It's named after Jack Kent Cooke's son, Ralph and John. So it's Rowjon, Maryland. It was Jack Kent Cooke Stadium. I went the first year to watch them play Cincinnati because I went to an RFK game, and then the following year I went to opening season. It was just that even back then, the stadium sucked. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of character, wasn't a lot of personality to it. But he had plans to, like, all right, the Metro's going to be here. We're going to do the free shuttles. We're going to do everything else. But the longer that Dan has had it, the more he's ruined it. Those stupid FedEx colors everywhere, the idea that he shut down the shuttle service that were taking people from the parking lot to the game, which made it even bearable, it's just, fuck you, Dan.
I would rather just go to a FedEx office and send something to somebody because that would eventually get more exciting because they're like, oh, thank you for sending this bullshit. Anyway, I think that's a wrap, boys. Thank you so much for your time again. Again, I am the host, so I'm thanking you guys for your time over here. Once again, I'm here with Matt Regan, LC Lautaro Cabrera, and Kadeen Wiggins, aka K Dot. It is good to see you guys every week on Fridays around noon, and we're looking forward to seeing you again next week. Take it easy now.
See you guys.